Dealing with a toxic work environment can be so frustrating. After all, we're adults. This isn't high school. Why should we have to deal with a type of environment that makes us not want to come into work? However, it's incredibly prevalent. In today's video, I'm going to give you the 3 top things that make a workplace culture toxic. And by the way, these are just my opinions. These are the opinions of the Society of Human Resource Management. These are the top 3 things. So I'm going to go through them today so you can avoid them. Let's go. Now, the main cause of a toxic workplace, according to the Society of Human Resource Management, is toxic leadership or poor leadership. If you work for a place where you are dealing with a toxic leader who makes life challenging on all of those below them, and that's probably how they view it, that is a main contributor. In fact, 36% of employees said that toxic leadership is the #1 characteristic or trait of a toxic place to work. Now, a toxic place to work, in terms of a leader, can manifest in a few ways. What does it look like? Well, it can look like lack of communication, lack of clarity, bullying, favoritism. There are a lot of things that fall under the category of toxic leadership. However, whatever these behaviors are, if you have a leader who is displaying toxic behavior, that's absolutely going to trickle down to the employees underneath them and going to lead to a toxic culture in general. So that is the #1 thing that you want to avoid when you are interviewing. Now, in second place, for the silver medal of being a terrible place to work, we have lack of work-life balance. And according to SHRM, 34% of employees say the second leading cause of a toxic work environment is that lack of work-life balance. Now, the reality is when you have a lack of work-life balance, it can lead to employees being overworked, under stress, and eventually burnout. And if you walk into an environment where all the employees are burnt out, that is absolutely going to feel like you're walking into a toxic place to work. So this is one of those things that I'm always really cognizant of avoiding if I'm interviewing. If I'm gonna interview a place, I'm gonna ask questions in the interview around that. I'm gonna ask questions like, what do you do to make sure your employees are maintaining a healthy semblance of work-life balance? And if they have a great answer to that, that's really powerful. And if they don't, well, that's not great. Another thing I do is I'm walking through on the way to my interview, I'm looking at people. Do they seem happy? Do they seem miserable? If you walk into a workplace and you're walking through and you're walking to the conference room or the boss's office where you're going to have your interview, and as you're looking at people all around and everybody looks like they absolutely hate their life and they're just like looking up, praying for a meteor to come and crater that office while they are in it to escape it, that is not a place you want to work. Now, in third place, receiving the bronze medal of toxic workplace behavior, it is toxic coworkers. Now, what does this look like? This could look like harassment. This can look like bullying. It could be trash talking. It could be cliques. That type of thing is going to make an environment incredibly toxic and hard to work in. Now, it is hard to imagine a place where it's completely harmonious and everybody likes everybody. But there is a massive difference between a healthy workplace and a place where there seems to be like warring factions like West Side Story. That is not the type of place you want to work. And according to SHRM, 31% of employees said this is one of the leading contributing factors to a toxic environment. I mean, think about it though, it makes sense. If you're on a team and you work in close proximity and you hate like half the people on your team or half the people on the team are, bullying, they talk down to other people, they're condescending, they are hard to work with, that's going to be an unbearable, untenable situation that you're going to want to leave. It's one of the reasons why I love getting panel interviews. Most people feel like panel interviews are incredibly intimidating, but for me, it gives me exposure to more people in the organization so I can see, okay, are these people happy? Do they seem like people who are good to work with? Do they seem friendly with each other? If you go to a panel interview and you notice that there is tons of friction amongst the people, and this is a spot where they're trying to put forward a good face, that to me is like a massive red flag. Speaking of red flags, a huge red flag is when a company ghosts candidates. And I imagine if you're watching this video, you probably hate that because everybody hates it, which is why I made this video here. This right here is the 3 top anti-ghosting strategy for candidates. So if you're interviewing and you want to get a job and you want to avoid being ghosted, you don't just have to cross your fingers. There are actually strategies. So I'm done here, but I will see you over there.